It's time to duel.
There's no question at this point that 2020 was a banger year for manga, and everyone online has been talking about the big titles. In the shadows cast by these shining stars are hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of new manga titles that came out in 2020. For those in the Shonen Jump bubble, we're aware that each year sees a crop of new titles published in the magazine, as an equal number of titles end or get cancelled. As it is right now, there are 12 new titles running in the magazine going into 2021. And that is a tiny drop in the bucket when you journey outside of the Shonen Jump bubble. Shonen, Seinen, Shoujo, and Josei all have their own weekly and monthly magazines in spades. Now, let's be honest here though. Outside of the Shonen Jump and Manga Plus apps, most people will never know about these other series and magazines unless they look for them themselves or get recommended by somebody on Twitter, Reddit, or YouTube. And even then, without official simul-release translations, we need to rely on fan translators to scour these hundreds of series to find the good stuff. A lot of stuff falls through the cracks. With that in mind, I did my digging through the series that did get translated in one way or another, and came up with a list of the top 20 series that are worth reading in 2021. The goal of making my list was to cover a broad range of topics across the 4 manga categories. I will be the first to admit that I didn't get to all of the new series out there, and that would be an insane endeavor to do so. But I did do my best to cover a good number of the series that have at least a decent chunk of their chapters translated so far. It's also important to note that the entries on my list, as well as their placement, all are based on my opinion and nothing more. These are the series that piqued my interests, and I recognize that my tastes won't necessarily be shared by everyone. With that in mind, I will have time codes down in the description for those that want to skip ahead to higher placed titles. One final note before we start though. There will be spoilers for the first chapter of each title. Outside of 1 or 2 series, spoilers will be kept to just the first chapters, so there's more for you guys to enjoy. Some spoilers were necessary though, just to entice you guys into reading. So, with the explanations out of the way, my name is Axel Ablaze, and this is my list of the top 20 new manga from 2020. We begin this list with Crazy Food Truck, a monthly manga by Rokuro Ogaki, running in the Seinen web magazine Comic Bunch Monthly, published by Shinchosa. The story follows Gordon, a gruff middle-aged man that runs a food truck in a desert world that's like a combination between Mad Max and Monster Hunter. As he's driving through this desert world one day, he almost runs over a sleeping bag in the middle of the road. Inside the sleeping bag, a naked girl hugging a big stuffed cat, of course. There's more to these two though than meets the eye, as we see them travel through this desert world in Gordon's food truck. So, the only reason why this entry is at the bottom of my list is because only 3 chapters out of 5 of this series have been fan translated so far. The series has Black Lagoon vibes, and the setting is pretty interesting. The art and character designs are top notch too. I love the fact that this mysterious guy named Gordon is running a food truck of all things in this desert world. Fantastic juxtaposition there. And there are so many questions about who Gordon and this girl are, as well as how this world came to be in its current state. Definitely looking forward to more. 19th place on my list is Medalist, a monthly manga by Suruma Ikada, running in Kodansha's Seinen magazine Monthly Afternoon. In Medalist, one of our 2 main characters is a young man named Tsukasa. He's a figure skater with a lot of talent, but he couldn't follow his dreams because of money. While he's down on his luck and in between jobs, he meets a young girl named Inori, a girl whose talent only really shines when she's skating. When no one else believed in Inori's dreams to become a figure skater, not even her own mother, Tsukasa steps in and declares that he'll be her coach. There are major obstacles ahead of them, but Tsukasa promises to face them together with Inori. This surprisingly is the only sports series on my list, but man is this one good. The art in this series is so interesting because the quality fluctuates to match the mood. When Inori is feeling her lowest, the art becomes scratchy and somewhat chaotic. But when this manga is at its highest points, the art is absolutely gorgeous, and you really want to give these characters a hug. You want to see them succeed and be happy. They oh my god, they're so precious, and I just want to hug them. As of writing this video, there are 3 regular chapters and 2 special chapters fan translated. Like Crazy Food Truck, it's monthly and came out in May, so there's not a lot out there yet. I'm looking forward to seeing Inori's debut in her first contest though. Fingers crossed for her success. Keeping the seinen train going with some shoujo ai mixed in is the manga GGWP, Young Ladies Don't Play Fighting Games. This comes from Monthly Comic Flapper, published by Media Factory under the Kadokawa umbrella, and takes 18th on this list. Aya is a young teenage girl that's rough around the edges who wants to become a proper lady. She enrolls at an all-girls school with that goal in mind. It's at this school where she meets Shirayuri, a girl who, at first glance, appears to be pretty improper. But beyond the surface, she's actually very unladylike and spends her free time playing fighting games like a gremlin. Shirayuri ends up challenging Aya to a game, and this starts their new daily lives of playing fighting games in an all-girls school. They need to be careful though, because if they get caught playing games, they could get expelled. If you're looking for a fun slice of life / school life series, then this is a good one to read. The facial expressions in this series are drawn really well, and it's funny to see the personalities of these girls flip on a dime. I mentioned juxtaposition with Crazy Food Truck, and it's here too with GGWP. Fighting games are great, but they're even better when they're played by girls that are going to a prim and proper school where video games are supposed to be forbidden. Also, while there is a shoujo ai tag for this series, there haven't been any relationship developments between the characters at this time. Not that this will stop anyone from shipping people. I mean, when has anything ever stopped the masses from shipping people? Another topic for another day. Moving on. We shift from seinen to shonen now with our 17th place entry, Desert 9, a monthly manga by Kei Deguchi, published in Shueisha's Jump Square magazine, the same magazine running Platinum End, Blue Exorcist, Kemono Jihen, and more. So, this series takes place in a world divided into 8 deserts. In each of these deserts, water doesn't exist like it used to in the form of rivers, lakes, and etc. The people of this world need to hunt creatures called Hyudras that are living bodies of water in order to survive. Our main character Mao hunts these Hyudra, but after an encounter with a titanic one that covers the night sky, Mao sets off on a quest left to him by his father. He needs to travel this desert-covered world and make his way to the phantom region known as Desert 9. So what set this story apart from the other series so far in my list is the world building. In the span of 4 chapters, monthly mind you, so they're long, we found out a lot about the world and its inhabitants. The different humans in each desert have their own special attributes and or abilities, there are magical artifacts, and the deserts themselves are interesting and different from one another. Weird to say that, the deserts are different, but this manga has managed to do that so far. Since this is part of Jump Square, I'm hoping that we can eventually see this picked up in the Western versions of Manga Plus and the Viz Shonen Jump apps. I do recognize that that's a pretty big ask though when you consider we only get 5 out of the 18 series translated as is. One can hope though. After Desert 9 is the first and only true shoujo series on the list. Hayaku Shitai Futari, or Let's Do It Already, great title, is a manga by Aki Kusaka, published bi-weekly in Shueisha's Margaret magazine. It takes the 16th spot on my list, and the manga is not as risque as the title makes it seem. This rom-com follows Yuri and Keiichiro. They're 2 teenagers that just started a relationship after sharing the same school route. Important to note here that they go to neighboring schools though. But here's the thing. Keiichiro comes from a prestigious family of prime ministers with a lot of rules and security. We're talking full security detail here. He's not supposed to even be in a relationship until he turns 18 based on old Japanese marriage laws, so technically it would be 17 now. Despite that, the two of them are determined to make things work until Keiichiro is old enough. Though Yuri still does her best to flirt with him and get more out of their current relationship. So first off, yes, I love rom-coms. For those new to the channel, you now know. As for the manga itself, I love that we start with the main couple being in a relationship from the first chapter. I have another manga on the list that's one of those will they won't they stories, but Hayaku Shitai Futari isn't that, and I'm thankful for it. Personality wise, these two characters are very much polar opposites, but this is one of those instances where opposites attract and I'm here for it. A lot of the comedy comes from the couple interacting with Keiichiro's security detail as well as Yuri trying to adapt to Keiichiro's lifestyle and quirks. And the romantic moments between them? Chef's kiss. If you like shoujo and or rom-coms with a confirmed relationship from the get-go, then this one is for you. So, after our shoujo, we jump from shoujo to josei with entry number 15. Published in Ichijinsha's monthly comic Zero Sum is Sho Harusuno's Butai ni Sake, also known as Bloom on Stage. Our main character, Asahi, doesn't really know how to talk to people anymore. He's late to his first day of high school and encounters another student, a really tall one at that seems even more antisocial than he is. He helps the other student out and makes his way to the school auditorium afterward. He makes it just in time to see the school's drama club put on a one-man play. I'll let you guess who the actor on stage is. It's this performance that inspires Asahi to join the drama club and try to change himself for the better. So, let's get this out of the way first. Yes, it's very possible that these two guys could get into a relationship at some point. It's a josei manga. I don't need to say more than that. The art club in this manga certainly wants that to happen, by the way, but I digress. It's not why I like this manga, I swear. That being said, I won't hate on the people that would like it for that. Just saying. The reason why I do enjoy it is because I like seeing the personality switch that the taller student in Mari goes through when he acts on stage. Is it cliche? Yes. But the play they put on in the first chapter is what really captivates me. Imari switches between the roles of the narrator and main character seamlessly as he steps between spotlights and absolutely terrifies the audience. Is it the type of play you go to encourage other students to join? Oh hell no! But go figure the main character Asahi gets inspired to join. I don't know if the manga will ever go past the school play setting for something more, but even if they don't, I'm enjoying it so far and hope you will too if you want to check out this josei acting title. At the 14th spot is the title, The Cave King Will Live a Paradise Life, Becoming the Strongest with the Mining Skill. It's a manga adaptation of the light novel written by Hajime Naihara and drawn by Takao Demise on Kadokawa's Comic Walker web service. Our main character Heel is the 17th prince, and he lives in a world where everyone is born with a crest that grants its bearer certain powers and abilities. The name and power of Heel's crest are unknown, and thus he's marked as a failure. Thus, he's sent away to a remote island in the middle of a rough ocean with the task of ruling over it. It's only after he picks up a pickaxe where his crest is revealed to be Cave King. From here on out, he'll use his crest to build his own kingdom on this otherwise hellish island. The light novel takeover is here, and this is one of 3 light novel adaptations on my list. When it comes to light novel stories, there are 2 extremely popular themes right now, and one of those, and I'm paraphrasing here, is the character with a seemingly weak skill or item is actually incredibly overpowered. The other popular theme is Otome game reincarnation, but we'll get into that later. Overpowered main character time first. While there is fighting, magic, and monsters in the story, the main focus for Cave King is on Heel's mining abilities and him building a society on this island in the middle of nowhere. To oversimplify things, think Minecraft in manga form. It's really fun to see Heel develop his skills and discover more and more secrets to the island. There are 7 chapters fan translated so far, but for the light novel fans, there are 124 chapters translated at the time I'm writing this. The impatient part of me might take over and read this, but regardless of how you consume Cave King, I think it's worth a look. We take a darker turn with entry number 13, S-Side Girl by Nakayama, published monthly in Shueisha's seinen magazine Ultra Jump, the same magazine publishing JoJolion. For those that might have noticed, I am semi-censoring that word just because in the case that this video does get monetized in the future, I don't want it to be unmonetized. So yeah, gonna, edit the word here. So, Kirari is a happy-go-lucky freshman in high school who wants to commit S-Side. She visits a S-Side cafe with 3 people that completely embody gloom and doom. The old man running the cafe walks him into a van filled with smoke. Kirari has a mysterious vision, and then they walk out of the van alive. The 3 people Kirari went in with now look happier than they've ever been, but Kirari is pissed. She goes home and tries to commit S-Side herself, but finds out that she can't. The old man that ran the cafe tells her that she must now put her life on the line to prevent another girl, the girl that she saw in a vision when she was in that van, from dying. And thus begins our dark and twisted take on the magical girl genre. So far I've tried not to go into spoilers past the first chapter, but S-Side Girl needs a little bit more explanation given the title and everything I've said so far. In the world of this manga, monsters called phobias affect people's mental and emotional states. These phobias then drive these people to commit S-Side or they kill the people themselves. The only ones that can stop these phobias are magical girls. Now, it's important to bring this up because S-Side is a dark topic. Obviously, I'm censoring the word as I'm recording this video, but this manga depicts that concept as a monster to be defeated. If you're someone that likes the darker side of magical girls, then I recommend checking it out, especially since the art is so pretty, yet so twisted at the same time. And because of the topic, though, I do understand if others don't want to take the plunge. Again, it's a dark topic even for a seinen series, so I completely understand. Now, let's dial things back with entry number 12. Coming from Kodansha's Manga Pocket app is the manga Maid no Kishi-San by Kano Kashiwagi, a slice-of-life rom-com shonen series. Kichiro, and yes, I know I already talked about a Keiichiro, so please bear with me, is a wealthy heir to a large corporation running several companies. He's cool, smart, and handsome, but he is the clumsiest person alive. While he has several maids in his employ, the best maid, and the one he wants to make the happiest, is a cool and expressionless maid named Kishi. She's not the type to be swayed by expensive gifts, though. It seems that she's happiest when she gets to take care of him. So I swear that I didn't intentionally put 2 rom-coms with similar named male main characters on my list. Completely coincidental. That said, I do recognize the similarities, especially the fact that both of these guys are successful and smart, and they're heirs to fortunes and/or success. Why I do rank this series so highly is because I'm a sucker for seeing expressionless characters being happy. That's the big reason. I want nothing but happiness for Kishi and Kichiro. And Kichiro's clumsiness, while it can be completely absurd in certain situations, when you consider the fact that Kishi likes taking care of this goof, I really can't complain. This rom-com gets my stamp of approval. Definitely recommend it. Now, before going into my top 10, we roll back into the light novel adaptation station. Number 11 on my list is Reincarnated as an Aristocrat with an Appraisal skill, written by Mirajin A and illustrated by Natsume Inui. Just like Maid no Kishi-San, it's published in Kodansha's Manga Pocket app. Now, it took a while, but we finally got to an isekai story on my list. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get one earlier, but it is what it is. An ordinary 35-year-old office worker randomly dies. No truck, just dies. He walks into a room, dies. That's it. And he is reincarnated as a noble named Ars Luvent in a world filled with magic. The story begins with him at the age of checks manga, 3 years old. And he has a secret ability that no one else has. Like a video game, he can see the stats, abilities, and potential of anyone he can see. He just can't use it on himself. He soon learns that his country is headed for danger, as so to protect his land and his people, he'll use his appraisal skills to find people with the best potential and have them join him. Like Cave King, this is another story that focuses on building up a kingdom/society, etc. Though compared to Cave King, this story focuses more on the relationships built between the characters. On top of that, while ours has a very powerful and unique ability, he himself is by no means a powerful person. So seeing him surround himself with more powerful allies is a nice twist. It reminds me of the tactician character role in most Fire Emblem games. And while we've still got one more light novel adaptation coming up, for those interested in this series, there are 23 chapters of the manga translated and 118 light novel chapters translated at the time of me writing this video script. One last note though, I have no idea what it is with the Japanese and writing characters that are way too ridiculously young for things that they shouldn't be doing. He was 3 years old at the start of this manga and could walk, talk, and I mean, yes, he had all the skills from when he was in his past life, but still, 3 years old. That's absurd. Absolutely absurd. What the heck? Again, topic for another day. I digress. So, there we go. Okay. Alright, so after Aristocrat with an appraisal skill, we finally arrive at the start of the top 10. These are all series that I have really enjoyed and or was heavily intrigued by one or more aspects of the story, art, etc. And speaking of intriguing art, the 10th place entry on my list is a seinen manga, Coffee Moon, created by Mochito Bota and running monthly in Dengeki Mao, published by Asaki Media Works. In a depressing city where rain pours down from the sky, our main character Pieta is happy because today is her birthday. She gets splashed by muddy water, loses an umbrella, and sits on a freshly painted bench. But she doesn't lose her smile, because today is her birthday. She receives a gift from her best friend at school, goes home to do an assignment that she decides not to do, and then celebrates her birthday with her mom before going to bed. Pieta wakes up the next morning, gets out of bed, and is happy, because today is her birthday. Every day is her birthday, because tomorrow never comes in this world stained black. But what makes today different is that her best friend is now caught in the same time loop. There are a lot of great things to say about Coffee Moon, with the best thing being the art in my opinion. This Victorian-style city, the never-ending rain, and the character designs are all fantastic. Not to mention the use of black in the art makes things feel satisfyingly dark and heavy. The mystery behind this time loop is fascinating, and there are definitely some supernatural elements at play here. And the eyes of these characters are such an interesting detail that stare you in the face chapter after chapter. If you like mystery series, then this is the one of the best recommendations I can give for new manga that started in 2020. Now, we switch from mystery school girls to Otome girls with my next pick. In 9th place is The Old Man Reincarnated as a Villainess by Michiro Ueyama, printed monthly in Young King Hours, published by Shonen Gahusha. Do you like otome games? Do you like otome game isekais? How about an otome game isekai where the main character reincarnates as the villainess in an otome game? Sounds like a recipe for success, right? Well, let's make the main character a middle-aged government employee who's also a father reincarnate as the villainous protagonist? Well, that's what you get with this webcomic turned manga. Our main character, Kenzaburo, gets hit by Truck-kun and finds himself now in the body of Grace Auburn, a young noblewoman with hair drills for days. He recognizes that he's in the world of Magical Academy Love and Beast, an otome game his daughter played at home, and also knows that he has become the villainous character. He tries his best to play the part, but he just turns out to be really nice and doting like a father. The number one thing he has going for him is the fact that this world automatically translates his old man words and mannerisms into the elegant speech and mannerisms of a young and respectable noblewoman. Now, I mentioned back with Cave King that the otome game reincarnation genre is big right now with light novels, and this is true, especially with characters reincarnating as the Villainess. Like, the amount of Villainous reincarnation manga from this year was ridiculous. Like, one magazine in particular had like 8. 8. What? Why? We don't need that many. But I digress. This manga is not based on a light novel. This manga started out as a webcomic before being picked up for serialization. And interestingly enough, the author of this manga is also the author of the Zoids Chaotic Century manga. Went from drawing giant animal mechs to otome game characters. Nice. But in all seriousness, I loved reading this manga. I found every chapter funny, but also endearing. Like, you would think that Kenzaburo would be completely out of his depth, but no, his years of civil service are helping him in spades, and despite being a middle-aged man, reincarnated and gender-bent, he's handling things really well. Compared to all of the other new otome game manga that came out this year, I think this one stood head, shoulders, and crazy hair above the rest. In 8th place, we've got our first of 2 Shonen Jump proper series, and that's Mashle, Magic and Muscles by Hajime Komoto. For those not familiar with Mashle, think One Punch Man or Mob Psycho fused with Harry Potter. The story centers on Mash Burndead, a teenager with no magic power living in a society where magic power is everything, and not having it can mean execution. But despite not having any magic power, Mash is stupid strong. He's so strong that he could deflect magic with a swat of his hand. That said, if he wants to change this society so that people can live happily regardless of their magic power, he's going to need to enroll in the world's most prestigious magic school and change society with his own 2 hands. Yeah, enroll in a magic school with no magic power. That's the plot. So, Mashle has several things going for it. It is a fantastic combination of a gag manga and an action manga rolled into one. And speaking of rolled into one, the fact that it feels like a combination of One Punch Man and Harry Potter is a positive, since both of those properties are super popular. And as for the titular character Mash, he's super enjoyable just because you never know what to expect next from him. He's a stand-up guy who will stand up for his friends and family, but at his core, he's a goofball. Fun fact before moving on though, every chapter title is formatted like a Harry Potter book title. Mash Burndead and the Body of the Gods, Mash Burndead and the Mysterious Maze, Mash Burndead and the Deadly Doll, etc, etc. It's these little touches like this that really help make this series great. I love it. In 7th place is the last light novel manga adaptation on my list. Running Kodansha's weekly shonen magazine, 7th goes to Shangri-La Frontier, Trash Games Hunter Challenges Godly Game. The story is written by Katarina and drawn by Ryosuke Fuji. We're all familiar with games that are just awful. Confusing plots, annoying NPCs, terrible game mechanics, etc, etc. Our protagonist, Rakuro, is a high schooler that enjoys the thrill of beating the trashiest games out there. So what happens when the king of trash games decides to play a VR game that people can only describe as godly? This is the story of Rakuro's adventure in the world of Shangri-La Frontier. Now, before anyone starts booing and say, SAO clone, shush. Dot hack came first. There, I said it. Anyway, Shangri-La Frontier is a fantastic addition to the weekly shonen magazine lineup. Important to note here that it's non-isekai. The people in the game are free to come and go, and Rakuro does that to occasionally go back and play some trash games. The art in the manga is fantastic, and the video games shown, as well as their mechanics, are incredibly well implemented. Sometimes the trash games even steal the show because they're so funny and relatable. Might be too late for a cyberpunk reference at this point, but you know, some fan art would be hilarious. For those that want to read the manga, it's actually simulpublished, which blows my mind for a series with only 22 chapters so far. If you've got Crunchyroll Premium access, you can read all of the chapters through their manga reading service. For the Hiro Mashima fans, Eden Zero is also available through this service. And you can bet I will collect the physical volumes once they're available because this manga, super enjoyable so far. I love it. I think because it's weekly and it's actually getting simulpublished, I will stick to the manga on this one. I don't have to think about fan translators and, whether or not one of those other light novels get adapted. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. I will stay clear of the light novel translation for now. I'm good. The manga is great. I definitely recommend it. 6th place goes to the seinen comedy Send My Regards to Kenshiro by Jasmine Gyu, published weekly in Kodansha's Weekly Young magazine. At the age of 10, our main character Koichi is sadly abandoned by his mother, who leaves him for a member of the Yakuza. Koichi swears that he'll kill this man with his own hands, so he decides to learn from the best fighter in history, Kenshiro. For 10 years, he trains his body and learns Kenshiro's techniques by reading Fist of the North Star, only for him to face off against the Yakuza and get his ass kicked. Koichi realizes that his knowledge of pressure points is superficial, so he learns everything there is to know about acupressure, human anatomy, and even reads books on psychology. After all of this effort, he finally obtains his national license as a professional masseur. This is a story of Koichi's revenge and his plan to kill his sworn enemy with the power of massage. So first of all, I lost my when the protagonist trained for 10 years, said Kenshiro's famous lines of, "You are already dead," and then gets beat to hell, but then he becomes a master of freaking massage? It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. The love for Fist of the North Star is woven throughout the story, and the massage twist just makes everything that much better. Also, for those that might not be familiar, Jasmine Gyu was also the author behind the manga and anime Backstreet Idol's Goku Dolls. So the fact that she's now writing a Kenshiro-inspired comedy is awesome. I'd love to see work by female authors and artists, and this one is really good. Definitely recommend it. We are now in the final stretch with the top 5. Kicking things off in 5th is Tricks Dedicated to Witches, another weekly shonen magazine title by Shizumu Watanabe. Harry Makito is one of the world's foremost stage magicians at the young age of 17, but his passion for magic has waned. People look up tricks on their phones to see how they work. Magicians are treated more like idols than magicians. And most importantly, he misses his mom. She passed away when he was younger, and she was the one that got him into magic. When Harry's final trick goes up in flames, literal flames, he finds himself in a medieval town thinking that he had been transported to another world. Maybe he was reincarnated in a place with magic where he can revive his mother. Nope! Turns out he somehow time traveled 400 years into the past to medieval Europe in the middle of the witch trials. It's time for Harry to regain his love for magic, take on the persona of the devil, and use his magic to save the girls falsely accused of being witches. The stage is set, and it's showtime. To quickly oversimplify things, Tricks Dedicated to Witches is like the magic trick equivalent of Dr. Stone. Each chapter features at least one magic trick that gets explained and rated in terms of difficulty. That said, the series legitimately surprised me with how entertaining it is. A magician time traveling to the past during the witch trials? That's a fantastic premise, and I think so far it's been executed fantastically. This is my favorite new series from Weekly Shonen Magazine this year, and I can't wait to see what 2021 has in store for it. Also, Shizumu Watanabe and Hiro Mashima did an art swap with their characters in Tricks and Eden Zero respectively, and I think the results look really great. You can find them on Twitter, and I'll also show them when I edit the video here. So look on the screen, there it is. It's cool, awesome, great. Read Tricks Dedicated for Witches, please. It's fantastic. I want to talk about it more with people, please. I digress. Moving on. 4th place goes to my pick for the best new series in Weekly Shonen Jump this year, and that's Undead Unluck by Yoshifumi Tozuka. Fuko is an 18-year-old girl that wants to die after finishing her favorite manga. Anyone that touches her will get unlucky and get hurt, or even die. That's when a mysterious man walks into her knife, falls off the bridge she was standing on instead of her, and gets hit by a train. Did he die from this? No, because he's an undead, and now this undead is intrigued. If he sticks with Fuko, maybe he can finally die. But before he can test this further, an unnamed organization comes in to take the two of them away into custody. Turns out Fuko and this undead guy are known as negators. Fuko in particular negates the luck of anyone that makes physical contact with her. A fight breaks out, our undead hero has some sick fighting moves, and Fuko's Unluck brings down a freaking meteorite onto the building that they were all in, on top of Undead and the bad guys. Though Undead literally walks out from the rubble moments later. Fuko gives Undead the name Andy, and the two of them set off, as the last panel puts it, on a quest for the greatest death ever. The biggest thing I want to say with Undead Unluck is that while the first chapter is great, it doesn't do the rest of the series justice in terms of the sheer scale of this manga. The world building in the series is great, with more details on the various characters, enemies, events, and more being unveiled in every single chapter. Also, this author loves to flex his art skills on a weekly basis. We're talking multiple double-page spreads in several chapters. Undead Unluck and Mashle are definitely the flagship series of the new Jump generation. Sales are good for a new Rookie series so far, 140,000 copies after 3 volumes released, and it also won the 6th annual Sugi Nikuru Manga Taisho Award for 2020, beating out 49 other entries. The future is bright for this series, and you should definitely read this and Mashle if you haven't started already. Taking Bronze, in my list, is a monster of a new series. Literally. The new shining star of Jump Plus, Kaiju No. 8 by Naoya Matsumoto, is the 3rd place entry on my list. Japan is a country that leads the world in kaiju attacks, but Japan's defense force is there to destroy these kaiju. Kafka Hibino, however, is a 32-year-old guy that works in the professional kaiju cleanup corps. He is one of the guys responsible for the cleanup that happens after the kaiju are destroyed. Despite making a promise with his childhood friend, a girl that has gone on to be one of the top commanders in the defense force, he could never pass the exams to get in, and now he's too old to get in. We see Kafka going to work one day, and he's introduced to a new recruit by the name of Ichikawa Reno, who's 18. He wants to join the defense force and questions why Kafka gave up. After a day on the job together with Kafka, teaching Reno the ropes, Reno thanks him for helping him get through the day, and also reveals that the Defense Force exam raised the age limit to 33 now. Before they can discuss things further though, a kaiju emerges from the corpse of the bigger kaiju they were cleaning up. The two men don't give up and fend off the kaiju for as long as they can, just long enough for the Defense Force to show up and defeat the kaiju, with Kafka's childhood friend, Mina, leading the charge. Kafka and Reno are taken to the hospital, where Reno calls his senpai cool for saving him and tells him that he should join the defense force. Just as Kafka is about to swear that he'll join the force, a small flying kaiju appears before him, crawls down his throat, and transforms him into a kaiju. Thus begins the story of Kaiju No. 8. While Mashle is considered to be the magical equivalent of One Punch Man, Kaiju No. 8 is the, well, kaiju equivalent. Though when I say that, I'm more so referring to the power level rather than the personality. Kafka has a wide range of emotions in every chapter, but damn, his kaiju power level is insane. The fighting is on point, the art is fantastic, and wow, this series is popular. The series debuted in July, and come December, it had been viewed over 30 million times through the app and the website. It achieved that feat faster than Spy Family did, and that manga sells like hotcakes. Each new chapter hits 1 million views at this point. And speaking of selling, Kaiju No. 8 has only released 1 volume so far, but per Oricon, it sold incredibly well for a new series by a new author. 90,831 copies in the first week, 69,404 copies in the second week, and at this point it has sold over 200,000 volumes total. That is incredibly impressive. You can read every chapter for free though through the Manga Plus app, or you can also read it through the Viz Media app if you pay for their subscription. Important to note here that there are different translations between these two services. I myself prefer the Viz translation by David Evelyn, but that's my preference. Also important to note that the manga releases weekly for 3 weeks in a row and then takes a break the week after, usually releasing some color promo pages in these off weeks. The author chose this schedule to prevent burnout, and so far, quality hasn't dipped, so I'm all for it. In second place, and people may be shocked since this is a series that I pitched to Masked Man, is Sousou no Frieren by Yamada Kanehito and Tsukasa Abe, published in Shogakukan's Weekly Shonen Sunday. Sousou no Frieren begins with an ending. After a 10-year adventure to defeat the Demon King, the hero party disbands on the night of a meteor shower with a promise to meet 50 years later. For the main character Frieren, who is an elf, this is nothing. But for the rest of the group, comprised of 2 humans and a dwarf, that's a large chunk of their life. The first chapter ends with the death of the main hero of the hero party, Himmel. Now, at Himmel's funeral, Frieren doesn't really feel anything at first. People in the crowd question why she doesn't feel anything despite Himmel's passing, and then the realization hits her. Despite traveling with her comrade for 10 years, despite knowing full well that humans live such short lives, why? Why didn't she try to get to know him some more? Tears stream down her face as she comes to terms with this regret. As the remaining 3 members of the hero party say their goodbyes, Frieren decides to begin a new journey to learn more about the humans that she adventured with, as well as the people and lands that they saved on their previous journey. As one story ends, a new one begins. This manga to me is the best new shonen series of the year. While it's got your typical hero versus villain battles, magic and monsters, etc., the themes of time and sentimentality make this manga as special as it is. You feel for these characters as you see them and their lives over the course of the several years, if not decades, depending on the character. This manga is also a rare opportunity to see a female-led story where the main character is already super strong and isn't pursuing power for love or another cliche reason. Her journey is one of understanding and appreciation for those that she had previously traveled with. And speaking once again on the concept of time, seeing how it's perceived differently between people with drastically different lifespans, especially when Frieren adds new people to her current adventuring party, is fascinating. On top of that, as the story progresses, we also learn about Frieren's history in connection to the strongest known mage in this fantasy world's history. Frieren has been alive for a long time, and it's great to explore her history. Highly recommend it. Best new shonen series of 2020. So, if the best shonen series of the year was second place, what came in first? How about my subjective pick for the top new seinen series of the year? Taking the top spot for best new manga of 2020 is Oshi no Ko by Aka Akasaka and Mengo Yokyoyari, printed in Shueisha's weekly Young Jump. Goro is a doctor in a small town in the Miyazaki prefecture of Japan. He works as a gynecologist and has a bit of a quirk. He's really into idol groups, and his favorite idol is Ai Hoshino, but to his dismay, she announced a temporary break online. For those wondering, he became a fan of idols after learning about them from a former patient of his that sadly passed away. Before she passed, though, she wished that she could be reincarnated as an idol, like Ai. Shortly after seeing that message about Ai, Goro has an appointment with a young girl and her guardian. The girl is already 20 weeks along into a pregnancy, and Goro realizes once she takes off her hat that this girl is his favorite idol, Ai. Turns out that she's pregnant with twins and won't reveal how she got pregnant or who the father is. And despite the fact that having kids could ruin her image as an idol, she decides that she wants to keep her kids. They'll be private from the rest of the world because, and I quote, "Idols are ideals, creatures that shine with a magic called lies, and the lie is an exceptional form of love." Goro promises to help Ai deliver her twins safely. The weeks go by, and soon it's the night of Ai's due date. Goro promises that he'll come running if she calls for him and goes for a walk outside. A hooded man approaches him, asking if he's the doctor in charge of Ai, before killing him in cold blood. His consciousness fades as the words of reincarnation from his former patient pass through his mind. As his consciousness returns, he reincarnates as one of Ai's twin children. This is just the beginning of a story of love, lies, tragedy, new life, and revenge. Oshi no Ko is a perfect combination of so many things. First, for those that miss Actage, this is essentially a seinen version of Actage. Various forms of acting, modeling, and singing are seen throughout the series. Definitely fills a void there. Second, the author of this manga, It's the author of Kaguya-sama Love is War. All-star choice right there. As for the manga itself, it's so good. The twist from the first chapter isn't even the biggest twist in the manga. The art is on point, the character designs are great, and the tonal shifts in the story are so well done. I refuse to spoil anything else because this manga is one that needs to be read, enjoyed, and discussed. And keep your eyes on the eyes in this manga. I mentioned the eye detail in Coffee Moon, but Oshi no Ko takes it a step further. It's a fantastic detail about a fantastic manga. I can't praise it enough, and like I said, I don't want to spoil anything more because it deserves to be read and discovered for yourself. I want you guys to read it. I want you guys to tell me what you think about it. And with that said, that's my top 20 list. It was a crazy task to read a bunch of manga to make this list, but it was so incredibly worth it to expand my own reading list in the process. There were several other series that didn't make the cut, but are worth the read. So I might make an honorary mention video in the future if people are looking for even more recommendations. But for now, I want to hear what you guys think. Have you read any of the manga on my top 20 list? If so, what have you enjoyed? Is there anything on this list that piqued your interest enough to check it out for yourselves? Do you guys agree with my order for these manga, or do you think certain titles should have been ranked higher or lower? Is there a series that I missed entirely that you think should be on this list? Let me know. Let me know down in the comments, and we can get the discussion going, because I love having a discussion down in the comments. For the first time on this channel, I have such a big discussion going. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you guys. For now, I want to thank anyone and everyone that's made it this far into the video. If you liked it, it would mean a lot for you to hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed but want to see more of my content, hit that subscribe button. But until next time, my name is Axel Ablaze, and I'm going to do my best not to get isekai before the next episode. Don't want to be the next Villainess in an Otome game. That would just be my luck. So, bye-bye everybody.